What's up, everyone? It's Bryan here from the Exact IT Solutions YouTube channel. Welcome to another video where we educate you about what's going on out there with cybersecurity. And today I want to talk about something that I've brought up on this channel many times before around geopolitics and what's going on with Ukraine and Russia and the Russian invasion into Ukraine and what that could mean for cyber attacks, cyber criminals, and quite frankly, your business. You might be sitting here thinking like, well, I'm not in Ukraine. I don't have to worry about this. Well, I'm going to tell you some things today that might change your mind a little bit about what could be happening with cyber criminals around the world and why it's going to impact your business. But first, let's get right into it. Let's get into what is going on out there in the world. And let's talk about what's happening in Ukraine, and then let's talk about what's going to happen potentially to your business by cyber criminals. So let's get into it. So guys, Ukraine is obviously being attacked or invaded by Russia, and this video I wanted to talk about potentially what could happen down the road. Now, we already are seeing reports of cyber attacks against Ukraine in their government and banking sector, which I pretty much predicted. People have asked me what I think will happen. I think immediately Russia would do these distributed denial of service attacks, or DDoS attacks, which basically means that traffic is flooded to these entities, to these banks, to these government websites, to these government networks, and it makes them unable to operate. It makes their network traffic slow down to the point where they cannot conduct business and do their normal things like communicate with people, send emails, process transactions, things like that. This is what a DDoS attack does. DDoS attacks can happen to anybody unless you have certain protections in place, and if they're done by the right people, especially by governments, they can be really difficult to stop and prevent. And that's what we're seeing going on over in Ukraine right now. And that is one of the things that's going to happen as this situation escalates and things get worse. But bringing it home to you and why this matters to most of my audience who is here in the United States, right before this happened, we saw the Russians start to work with the U.S. and take down some cyber criminals. Well, I can tell you, with this going on, number one, Russia's not even going to worry about private cyber criminals in their country and how they operate. And number two, they're not going to work with the United States at this point on this issue because of what's going on. And it's unfortunate because we were starting to see some progress, and then we see this happen, which is going to deteriorate any diplomatic or legal means that we had to stop this, prevent this, and stop it from growing. To me, this gives a green light to private cyber criminals within the borders of Russia to attack businesses and entities around the world, and really nobody's going to stop them. So I already talked about in the fall that we saw, and there were reports that there were lots of network intrusions against transportation and shipping companies. We put that warning out, and as we see today, and I'm going to do another video around this, but expediter shipping is under attack, and these cyber criminals and Russia knows that the supply chain is very fragile right now, and any disruption in any way to shipping only makes things worse. We're in a very interesting time now with inflation and supply chain shortages, and these cyber attacks can exacerbate these things. They can cause more shipping delays. This expediter shipping is one of the largest ones around, and they are shut down right now because of a cyber attack. And this is what we need to worry about. We need to be concerned that these private cyber criminals are going to start attacking U.S. businesses and other businesses around the world, especially in Western Europe and things like that, that they are all going to be a target for these cyber criminals because they know that their government isn't going to work with the United States any longer, at least for the foreseeable future. And they're going to look at this as a green light or strike while the iron's hot type of situation. So it wouldn't surprise me that if in the next month or two or however long this conflict goes on for, that we see an increase in cyber attacks against major entities and businesses. But please don't think you're too small. I run a podcast called Security Squawk. We released a podcast yesterday. You can get that pretty much anywhere that you listen to podcasts. You can get that on YouTube as well. And we had an individual on who just helped a small business through a ransomware attack. So this is happening to businesses big and small. And I think sometimes people think that the big guys are the only ones getting hit because they can pay millions and these cyber criminals want to demand millions. But there's lots of cyber criminal groups out there that are doing things at different levels. There's still individuals being attacked with ransomware every day where they only have to pay $500 or $1,000 to get their family photos and music and things like that back off their personal computer. That's still a thing. Hitting small businesses for a few $100,000 is still a thing, and hitting big businesses for millions of dollars is still a thing. So please start getting a cybersecurity program in place in your business. Start looking at things like zero trust. Start looking at things like multi-factor authentication, password managers, password hygiene. Don't reuse passwords. These are all things that are known, tried and true technologies that slow down cyber criminals or basically make them go somewhere else because they know that they can get into a company easier than maybe if you put some of these precautions in place than it is to hack you. So that's my advice for today, folks. I'll keep updating as we learn more about this conflict and how it impacts you and your business and things going on in the world. But as of right now, we're seeing what I expected, the denial of service attacks on these Ukrainian entities. I wouldn't expect to see these DDoS attacks expand into the United States, maybe into Europe and Western Europe potentially, depending on how far things go. But I do absolutely think that we will see an increase in private cyber criminals attacking companies because they know these governments are tied up with more important things. So see you in the next video.